What if I told you the free character in version 4.4 might be the one that completely changes SABER forever? At first, I thought Gilgamesh was just another strong DPS option, but after looking at his kit, I realized something crazy. This guy might be one of the biggest upgrades a single character has ever given to another unit. SABER teams are reportedly gaining absurd amounts of damage with him, and the synergy between the two feels so intentional that it's hard to believe they were not designed side by side. Gilgamesh isn't just locked to SABER, he also has some surprisingly powerful partnerships with characters like Merchant X Blade, Tribi, Aglaya, Venetia, and even a few units most people probably are not considering right now. So today we are breaking down Gilgamesh's best teammates, his strongest teams, and which characters can bring a surprising synergy with him. Before we begin, as usual, please hit the like and subscribe button. Now if you have done that, let's get this video started. Looking at his kit, it's pretty clear what kind of partner he's designed for. Gilgamesh wants to play alongside another DPS that scales with attack, has a high energy cost ultimate, and takes a lot of action so he can constantly gain points of interest and action advance himself. And honestly, it should not surprise anyone that SABER is his base teammate. He feels like he was literally built for her. They have the joint attack mechanic, SABER has very expensive ultimate, she scales with attack, and she takes tons of actions thanks to all of her extra attacks and combos. She checks every box Gilgamesh is looking for. On top of that, the synergy goes both ways. SABER generates points of interest for Gilgamesh, allowing him to action advance himself more often. Then Gilgamesh returns the favor by giving SABER a 50% action advance every time they trigger their joint attack, while also helping her get more energy. The two characters basically fit into each other's kit non-stop, so if you are pulling SABER, you are almost certainly going to want Gilgamesh as well. And don't forget, Gilgamesh is being given away for free. In version 1.4, you'll be able to choose between a free Gilgamesh or a free archer. But yeah, if you are a SABER player, Gilgamesh is probably the free character you will want to claim. The difference he makes is huge. I used to think SABER was honestly kind of mediocre, but after seeing what Gilgamesh does for her, I think she has a real chance of climbing back into the meta. I remember seeing calculations showing SABER teams reaching something like 170% of their previous damage when paired with Gilgamesh. It's an absolutely massive increase. The synergy between them is just ridiculous. That said, Gilgamesh does not need SABER to function. He's not locked to SABER teams. It's just one of those situations where the two characters are clearly designed around each other, kind of like Rain and Archer. So SABER is definitely his best in-slot teammate. Now let's talk about some other options. First up is Tribi. Tribi is one of those supports that keeps showing up in discussions because she is just an incredibly strong general support. Even though she scales with HP, she attacks very frequently through her follow-up attacks, which helps generate a lot of points of interest for Gilgamesh. I don't know if I would call her his absolute best support, but she's definitely one of the strongest options available. The only reason I hesitate is because there's another character I think fits even better in that third slot. He is Merchant X Blade. Gilgamesh already has defense threat built into his kit, and Merchant X Blade brings even more defense threat. The two stack together extremely well. Blade also attacks constantly, has a very expensive ultimate, and naturally helps Gilgamesh generate more energy and more opportunities to use his own ultimate. Their synergy is honestly fantastic. The one downside is that Blade does not really care about the Gilgamesh attack buffs because he scales from HP. He still loves the crit damage buffs though. Even with that limitation, I think Merchant X Blade is easily Gilgamesh's best third teammate. This is actually pushed Sunday out of a lot of teams. Before Gilgamesh existed, Sunday was commonly paired with SABER, but now Gilgamesh handles a lot of the action advance support by himself. As a result, Sunday loses a lot of value here. I don't think Sunday is bad, but I don't think most people will make him the first choice anymore, as he used to be. The issue is that SABER and Gilgamesh function as a dual DPS core, while Sunday mostly focuses on buffing one character. Things can also get a little awkward because Gilgamesh is constantly action advancing himself and occasionally action advancing SABER. Adding Sunday's action advance on top of that can make turn order pretty messy. If you are running SABER and Gilgamesh together, I don't think Sunday is anywhere close to best in slot. He's more of a, if you don't own Blade or Tribi, sure why not option. Now if you are trying to play Gilgamesh as a hybrid carry, Sunday becomes more appealing. He benefits from Gilgamesh's crit damage buffs and can help feed energy back into him. But even then, I think there are better options we will talk about later. Next up is Welt. Welt is kind of like a budget version of Blade for this team. He does not attack as often, but he does bring a good amount of defense threats that stacks nicely with Gilgamesh's own debuffs. Honestly, I think he's probably slightly better above Sunday if you are pairing Gilgamesh with Saber simply because both Saber and Gilgamesh benefit from Melt's debuffs. Now let's talk about Asheville. I think Asheville is extremely interesting. In fact, if you are not using Saber, I actually think Asheville might be one of Gilgamesh's best teammates. A team of Gilgamesh, Asheville, Merchant X Blade looks incredibly promising. Asheville fully benefits from Gilgamesh buffs, he loves the attack, loves the crit damage, and takes a ton of action himself. That means he's constantly feeding points of interest into Gilgamesh while dealing a strong damage of his own. After watching some showcases, I honestly think their synergy is even better than I originally expected. And if you happen to own E2 Merchant X Blade, things get completely ridiculous. A huge portion of Gilgamesh damage comes from his ultimate. If Blade's E2 allows that ultimate to benefit from follow-up attack bonuses, then combining Blade and Asheville's follow-up support with all the defense ignore effects creates some truly absurd damage numbers. It might honestly compete with the Saber teams. Of course, that's getting into heavy Eidolon investment territory, but it's still worth mentioning because it's incredibly strong. If you are not using Saber, Asheville becomes one of Gilgamesh's most exciting partners. If you are using Saber though, I probably would not run Asheville. He mainly specializes in follow-up support, and you would generally rather use a support that benefits both Saber and Gilgamesh equally, and that's where characters like Blade pull ahead. Next is Danheng Permancer. Honestly, I feel like he's kind of decent here. He's not bad, but there are simply better options available. Sure, he appreciates the attack buffs from Gilgamesh because stronger shields are always nice, but that's not really why you are bringing him. The biggest issue is that if you are running Merchant X Blade, Permancer struggles to keep him alive consistently. Blade constantly drains his own HP, and Permancer just does not have enough sustain to comfortably support that playstyle. The dragon does take extra actions though, which should help generate additional points of interest for Gilgamesh. I'm pretty sure it works similarly to Mammoth's Pride in that regard. Overall, he is solid, but nothing special. Then we have Huahua. Honestly, Huahua gives this team almost everything it could possibly want. She restores energy to both Saber and Gilgamesh, which is incredibly valuable. She also buffs attack, and both Saber and Gilgamesh scale directly with it. On top of that, unlike Permancer, Huahua can actually keep Merchant X Blade alive comfortably. For me, she's easily the best healer for Gilgamesh teams. That's why she is an easy best install sustain, even better than Permancer in this case. Next is Sparkle. Sparkle is another decent option. What I like about her compared to Sunday is that she can indirectly support both Gilgamesh and Saber instead of focusing entirely on one target. The issue is that actual advanced interactions become really weird once Gilgamesh starts advancing Saber and Sparkle starts advancing her too. It's not bad, but it can get messy. So while I think she's pretty usable, I don't see her becoming one of Gilgamesh's absolute best teammates. She's probably around the same level as Sunday overall. Then we have Argenti. I want to mention him because he has a very expensive ultimate and can cast it frequently, which technically helps Gilgamesh. But honestly, he's just not very good. If you are determined to play Argenti, you would probably be better off building a dedicated hyper carry team around him instead. Yunli is a little more interesting. Unlike Argenti, she takes a lot of action thanks to all her follow-up attacks. She also cycles ultimate frequently and can hold multiple ultimate charges. Because of that, I actually think she has some potential. I'm not ready to call it meta, but it's definitely interesting and worth testing. Now let's talk about Evanesia. This is one of the pairings I'm most curious about. She does not care much about Gilgamesh's attack buff, but she absolutely loves the crit damage. She also has one of the highest energy cost ultimates in the game, and has several ways to generate energy outside of her own turn. On top of that, she takes a ridiculous number of actions. Honestly, she's almost a pseudo follow-up DPS with how often she moves. That means she generates a huge amount of points of interest for Gilgamesh. I genuinely think a team of Evanesia, Gilgamesh, and Yao Guang could be surprisingly strong. I really hope that she could work well with Gilgamesh. I really want to see the showcase, but I think I did not find any videos around. Please let me know in the comments if you happen to find one. And honestly, that's why I'm excited about Gilgamesh. His kit creates synergies with characters you would not normally think about, which brings us to the character I am probably most excited to touch with him, Aglaia. Aglaia has one of the highest ultimate energy costs in the game and takes an absurd number of actions. Even her Gamer Maker count as an action and helps generate points of interest for Gilgamesh. The synergy is incredible. Gilgamesh buffs her attack, gives her crit damage, and provides unconditional buffs that don't expire quickly. That's especially important because Aglaia takes so many turns that traditional buffs often disappears before she can fully use them. Gilgamesh does not have that problem. I think Aglia and Gilgamesh could end up being one of the most fun dual DPS teams in the entire game, and if you pair them with Cyrene and Hyacinth, things get even more interesting. Cyrene helps provide additional energy while also giving Gilgamesh some true damage through her ultimate. Hyacinth contributes damage, sustain, and extra actions through Ika. Both Aglia and Hyacinth generate additional points of interest for Gilgamesh, letting him action advance more often. If you have E1 Aglia and E2 Cyrene, this team could honestly become one of Aglia's strongest setups. I'm not completely sure yet, but the potential is definitely there. It's also nice that both Aglia and Gilgamesh are lightning characters, so they naturally cover the same weakness types. For now though, if we are talking about the average player, I think Gilgamesh's best team is pretty clear: Saber, Gilgamesh, Mortronix Blade, and Huahua. If you are not using Saber, then I would probably recommend Gilgamesh, Mortronix Blade, 3B, and Hyacinth. That team attacks constantly, generates a huge number of points of interest, and allows Gilgamesh to take advantage of Blade's expensive ultimate while benefiting from all the buffs and damage the team provides. Those are the two teams I would recommend the most right now, although account investment obviously changes things. So I think that's all from Gilgamesh team synergies. Overall, what do you guys think about his team composition? Do you have something else in mind? And if you do, please share it in the comment below. If you find this video helpful, please hit the like and subscribe button, turn on notification as well so you won't be missing out on any of my Star Rail content. I will see you guys on my next one. Bye bye!